How much money does the Cincinnati Bengals have right now? The number you see on your screen is actually inaccurate. It's not $17 million. That's actually an incorrect number. That number is before us going ahead and signing Dalton Risner. So right now, he's on the roster on this thing, but it says $0 for how much he's making. The reason why it says that is because we don't know what his contract actually is. We could speculate and say he's probably making like league minimum, but we don't know exactly what that number is. We do know that we offered him league minimum, but then he did leave and went to, check out some other teams, and then we brought him back. So it's very possible that we actually offered him more money than league minimum, and that's why he did come back and want to play for us. Again, all speculation, but until we get the concrete number, we just simply do not know how much that is. Now, we can speculate that it's probably something less than $4 million. So, for example, we could put in this number right here, right around $4 million, which, again, it would probably be less than that, but that would put us around 13.0 for $4 million, which is probably where we're sitting at, or very close to that, give or take maybe $1 million. We're right around that number, which again means we can go out there and sign players like Jabril Peppers. We can go out there and sign Justin Simmons, Mike Edwards, whoever else we want, just as our last additions to finalize this roster off. Now, that's why I said the other day when I talked about Trey Hendrickson, that's why his contract is so important. So again, he did get a $14 million signing bonus in the end, or $14 million bonus period in the end. But with how the Bengals structured his contract, it helped us out so much this year. So what they did was they took his base salary, they lowered it to $9 million, and then put that prorated money, a $20 million signing bonus, into the next 2 years. So they went ahead and made it so it's $10 million next year, and it was $10 million this year. I know it's weird how that's all structured, but pretty much what they did is $14 million in the end. But what they did was they took the money and said, hey, we're going to give you $10 million right now. So instead of you making a base salary at the end of the year of this certain amount of money, we're going to give you $10 million right now in cash, and we're going to give you another $10 million, but that's not going to count toward this year. It's going to count toward next year, but you're going to get that $20 million right now. We, in a sense, gave him $20 million, but it works out to 14 because of how he would have gotten paid anyway, if that makes sense. He would have gotten that money from just playing the year. We just fronted it up front. So we gave him the $20 million up front rather than him having to play the whole year. So in the end, it works out because it gives us more money for our salary cap. It gives us more money to potentially sign players and, work out there. And in the end, I got to give the Bengals a lot of credit because that definitely helps us out to go after another player. Now, will we go after another player? That has to, yet to be seen, but we'll have to wait on that. You will see one player on here, Tanner McLaughlin, who you might say, wait, didn't we cut Tanner McLaughlin? He's right here, actually. He is counting toward $1 million versus the salary cap. And if you're wondering, didn't we cut this guy? We did, actually. But just like Cordell Volson, he was on the IR, so he goes right back on the roster. So when a player is on the IR and they're hurt, you can cut them at the 53-man roster cut down date. And normally, you cut a player like that, they hit free agency, and then they just, if no one signs them, they go right back to your roster. No big deal. It's a kind of like an unwritten rule for most NFL teams that's kind of how it works, right? Everyone understands that. If you're an NFL, head coach, GM, whatever, it's kind of just how the system works, right? You go ahead and someone gets cut because the whole point is you want to stash that guy on your IR. Well, this year was the first year that what we saw was the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles decided that was no longer going to be an unwritten rule. They went ahead and signed, I think, a couple players that were injured and stashed them on their IR instead of letting the team, whoever had them, do it. Now, again, you could say, like, hey, listen, at the end of the day, Everyone's trying to make their team better, and they can do whatever they want. Unwritten rule doesn't matter. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's just an unwritten rule. I think that's the best way to put it. Everyone has this kind of concept like, okay, you let the guy hit free agency, you let the guy pass waivers, and then he goes right back to your roster. But the Eagles are going to be the Eagles, bro. So Tanner McLaughlin, they didn't do that with Tanner McLaughlin, the Eagles-wise, but they did it with a couple other players from other teams, and there are some people who really were not happy with them. Not really fans-wise, but coaches-wise, I've heard many reports of. So, listen, the Eagles, this is how I guess they're so good. It's, when there's unwritten rules, they just say, we don't really give a crap. We're just going to do whatever we think is going to make ourselves better. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the whole point there. But across the board, again, probably sitting around $13 million is the final number. And let's just go sign somebody else. We have the money. We're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. We put the money toward the future when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, even though we did, but we didn't. We prorated it, so it doesn't count this year. But we didn't when it comes to, like, real-life stuff. It's so weird with signing bonuses. Like, you could say to a player, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $50 million right now in a check. But it won't count toward $50 million toward our roster because we're going to prorate it over 5 years, which pretty much means we're going to split up that $50 million over 5 years. That's how you get the void years and the fake years, as they call them in NFL. So it's always weird because you can prorate numbers so much in the NFL. Problem is, when you prorate a contract, what you're saying is, even if the player is on your roster or not on your roster, you're still having to give them that money at the start of the league year. So, like, March 13th, 2026, Katie Blackburn is going to have to give Trey Hendrickson, in theory, the $10 million bonus that he already got. Well, she's not going to give him any more money, but he's going to count toward our cap as of that date because of the signing bonus. Yeah. Fun times. He's not going to get any more money, but he is going to count toward us for next year. So next year we'll have $10 million less, which obviously the salary cap goes up every year, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem. Anyway, I'm rambling. I just want to get all that details out there, all the information out there. Because I know not everyone watches every single one of my videos, so if you miss something and, whatever. I'm learning that with the comic section. Sometimes I'll explain something and someone will miss a video, and I'm like, oh, dang, they did not hear my long ramble on that one subject. See you guys in the next one, though.